Let he who seeks wisdom ask Elohim, the Supreme Elohim, Yahuwah, for he grants all. You will be in receipt of all answers, all discernment, all wisdom, everything that you need, all questions answered. But come to him in an unwavering fashion, because he gives liberally, without criticizing, without reproach, without derision at our insignificance, at our silly questions, at our lack of understanding. He gives and he gives and he gives liberally, like he gives more than you could ever imagine. Your cup runneth over. It's like a tidal wave, a tsunami. If you seek wisdom, come to Elohim, come to Yahuwah. Ask and you will receive, but come to him in an unwavering fashion. Of course, if you know I'm speaking from James chapter 1, come to him in an unwavering fashion. For if you waver, you will receive nothing, because a double-minded man is unstable in all things. In all things. Those who vacillate, those who hesitate, those who prevaricate, those who procrastinate, those who overthink, those who second guess, doubt, constantly plagued with doubt. You receive nothing, and then you ask, well, I want his love. I want his healing. I want his wisdom. I want his discernment. Do you really? Do you really? For if you did, you wouldn't waver. You wouldn't waver. For a lot of people, you come to Yahuwah wondering why your life is in a shambles, why you're bereft, why you're empty, why you're crushed spiritually, why you're disappointed, why you're anxious, why you're frustrated, why nothing goes your way. You ask these things. And you wonder, why haven't you been blessed? Why hasn't he blessed you? Why hasn't he come to you? Why hasn't he shown you the way? Because you need to ask. And you need to ask in sincerity. So this really comes down to, for a lot of people, you're asking for the answers from Yahuwah. If you're doing that, you're asking for the answer. Imagine going to Yahuwah as an unbeliever and asking for the answers. Going to him without faith and asking for the answers. The question arises, what do you do? What then? Well, why are you even going to Yahuwah with your cries, with your pleading, with your prayers, if you don't believe? The first thing you need to be asking in that circumstance, the first thing you need to be seeking in that instance, if you're prevaricating, if you're overthinking, if you're double-minded, the first thing you need to be asking for is belief. You need to ask him to fill you with faith, to fill you with his love, to fill you with his steadfast strength, such that you become unshakable in your core and your foundation, such that you know the truth of Yahuwah, Yahusha, the Most High who saves, the Most High who redeems. And that is Love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your fellow man as you love yourself. And this will only happen when you have unshakable faith, when you are of a single mind, when you do not waver, when you do not hesitate in your approach, and when you come to him in all humility and humbleness, because you've been on your knees to the Son of the Most High, the perfect Lamb of Yahuwah, Yahuwah manifested in the flesh, as he who saves, he who delivers, he who redeems, Yahusha, Son of the Most High, Yahuwah, he who breathes life, he who creates, he who brings into existence. Because you have been on your knees, and you have confessed all that you have finally found shame and guilt in, abhorrence in, for all your evil, all your sins, all you've been, all you were. And you want to leave all of that behind. You want to leave all of that behind, and you want to be refreshed, revised, renewed, and you come to him in all humbleness and humility. You confess to him. With your words, you confess to him. No man, no holy man, no wise man, no rabbi, no priest, no guru, no yogi, no magi. No, you go directly to the source, he who lives within you, Yahuwah, Yahusha, and you confess. And you ask him for forgiveness. You ask him to come into your life. You ask him to fill you with his love and his glory and his righteousness. You ask him for salvation, and he delivers. And you pray then on how grateful you are, because you will receive. You receive his love. You receive his light. You receive his glory. The Ruach fills you. The breath of Yahuwah fills you. The set-apart spirit fills you, animates you, brings you to life, and you are reborn. And you pray on how grateful, because you're truly grateful for the first time. In your life, you're truly, in your heart, in your DNA, in every fiber of your being, you feel the gratefulness, you feel the thankfulness for what he has delivered. And then you surrender completely to Yahuwah, Yahu. Surrender completely and ask him to guide you, direct you on how to live your life in a manner that pleases him most. Not that pleases you most. Not that pleases me most. Not that pleases us. No, that pleases him most. Because you are of an earthly will. You seek treasure in this life. You seek accomplishment, kudos, esteem, glory, money, material things. You seek the accoutrements of comfort in this life. You seek power and dominion in this life. His will is that you serve him by loving him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and loving your fellow man as you love yourself, nurturing your fellow man as you nurture yourself. You honor yourself so you can honor your fellow man. You encourage yourself, you can encourage your fellow man. And this all stems from Yahuwah's encouragement, Yahuwah's inspiration, Yahuwah's motivation. Because when you love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and he fills you with the Ruach, you are alive like you've never been. But you must go through this catharsis. Then, after going through this crucible, this rebirth, then you're in a position to ask for wisdom, for discernment, for his epiphanies and his revelations, for how you should be living your life in a manner that pleases him most. It becomes self-evident at that point, because you've received the word, the way, the truth, and the life, and you know. But if you walk up to him cold and ask without belief, imagine that, going in double-minded, wavering, unfaithful, unbelieving, and asking him to give you wisdom. The double-minded man is unstable in all things. So in all ways of your life, you hesitate, you prevaricate, you procrastinate, you overthink, you second guess, you're unsure. And so what is that person bound to be? Vulnerable to the persuasion and the influence of evil whisperers, of corrupt minds, of temptation, of lust, of indulgence, of depravity, of decadence, defilement, and debasement. You've left yourself open. You do not wear the armor of Yahuwah. What is the armor of Yahuwah? What is the helmet of salvation? What is the sword that you wield when the Ruach lights you up from within? You're then impregnable. You're then impenetrable. That is faith. That is what that is. That is belief. And in so being, faithful to Yahuwah, believing with all of your heart, soul, mind, and strength in Yah, loving Him with all that you are, all that you be, all that makes you up. You wear His armor. You become impregnable. You become sure. You become confident. You become full of a self-esteem that is not human. That is driven, animated, filled with the breath of Yahuwah, the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart Spirit. And so in all things now, you're no longer vulnerable to the decadence and depravity, the ugly web that is spun by the devil, Satan, Hashatan, the demons that roam this earth, that rule this planet, that look to destroy you by tempting you with cheap thrills, cheap highs, cheap titillation, so that you're led astray, so that you're bedazzled with baubles, with the sparkling of gems, with distractions and diversions and manipulations and propaganda, everything they can throw at you to take your eyes off of Yahuwah, Yahusha, and the path to the kingdom to come. And so of course you're empty, of course you're soulless, of course you're bereft, of course you're wandering, of course you're hungering, longing, thirsting, because every time you participate in that indulgence, that decadence, that depravity, it leaves you after the high is over, after the cheap thrill is over, you're left with pain and suffering and misery, physical pain, physical suffering, mental pain, anguish, sorrow, despair, soul-crushing, heartbreaking, longing for something more, something true, something genuine, because you know you've been wandering this illusion and this hallucination, and ultimately, when you want the real, that's when you come to Yahuwah Yahusha. That's when He delivers. You have to want to believe. That's where it starts. That's where it starts. So if you're wondering how to come to Him, where you're not wavering, how to come to Him where you're not of two minds, how to come to Him where you're not vacillating, where you're not unsure, where you are in the faith, where you're of a single mind, not corrupted, not persuaded, not influenced, not deviating. That only happens when you want it. And I don't mean want, I mean you've come to a place where you need Him in your life. And you come to Him in all humbleness and humility, and you go through this catharsis that I described in coming to Yahusha, because He will save you, He will deliver you, He will redeem you and fill you with the Ruach and the faith and the belief and the strength, because you will understand the fount of which all pure things come, from which all faith, which all belief, which all love and healing come, which is to love Yahuwah with all your mind, soul, and strength, and to love your fellow man as you love yourself. And from that practice, from that discipline, from that commandment, all the good things, all the wisdom that you could ever search for will come, because you'll be operating from Yahuwah's will, not your own will any longer, Yahuwah's will. You will be doing His actions. You will execute on His demands. You will declare from His voice, from the voice of the Ruach, from the voice of the set-apart Spirit, which will animate you, which will guide you, which will steer you in your life. You will no longer be unsure which way to turn, what to do. Every crossroad you come to will be clear now, because the path will be enlightened, emblazoned, illuminated, such that it is apparent. You cannot miss it. The kingdom to come lies at the horizon that you can see, and the path is carved in stone, and it is blindingly bright, so you can't miss it. And so you walk that path now, true and strong, steadfast. The double-minded man is unstable in all things. In all things. So you don't come to Yahuwah, Yahusha, when you're in that state. You don't come to Yahuwah, Yahusha as a procrastinator, a prevaricator, someone who hesitates, is always second-guessing, and always doubting, constantly doubting everything, doubting yourself, doubting him, doubting every instance of your being, wondering what it all means, what is your purpose, where are you, who are you? Don't get me wrong, these questions are important because that's what will ultimately deliver you to Yahuwah Yahusha, but you don't come to him in that state. You don't come to him in that place where you're not sure if he exists, where you're doubting his presence, where you're second guessing his glory, his power, his will. We are questioning that you are his creation, that he is your Elohim, because you will be rendered asunder if that is how you approach him. You do not approach him that way. The only way to approach him, the only way, if this is where you're at in your life, questioning him, doubting him, rejecting him, the only way, your only way, is to come to him in all humility, completely humbling yourself and asking him to give you the strength to believe, to give you the faith that you need, to fill you with an unwavering confidence in he as your creator. You ask, you will receive. And that's the first step, wanting it. It's unlikely that you will come to him in this state unless you want and need and it such that it must be that you have him in your life. And so again, it becomes self-evident. The minute you come to him in that way, wanting his love, wanting his grace, wanting his salvation, wanting to believe, wanting to be faithful, wanting to follow the commandment, to love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, love your fellow man as you love yourself. It begins, your journey begins right there. That is the start. Don't come to him in a disingenuous manner. I can't imagine you would go to him in a disingenuous, but don't go to him in a disingenuous manner. Don't come to him in that way. You will be rendered as you will be struck down. Who would go to him in that way? That's because you're corrupted. That's because you're filled with evil. That's because you're filled with lies. Because you've allowed yourself throughout your life to be persuaded by the Lord of lies, the Lord of filth, Hashatan, the evil ones that manipulate this illusion and continually lead you astray, lead you into temptation, lead you into decadence, lead you into depravity. And when you've had enough of that, when you've come to the end of your rope, when you've finally longed and hungered and thirsted till you can't take it any longer, because none of what they promised you came true, because none of what they told you, none of it panned out. Everything that they proclaimed to you, a house of cards, blown away in the wind, evaporated, leaving you destroyed, torn to pieces, brokenhearted, and on the brink. And it is then, if you're still here, if you're still alive, if you're still on this planet, and you haven't come to that horrible place, that moment, that frightening, horrific moment where you have crossed over, living a life on this earth following the dragon, the demons of this world, the father of lies, and then you cross over and you knock on that door and you hear the you hear the praises being sung, the joy being sung, the glory being sung behind the door. in the kingdom to come. And you knock on it, it's not being answered. You bang on it, it's not being answered. You're smashing and smashing and smashing and beckoning and asking and hollering, let me in. Please let me in. And you're banging and you're smashing on that door. And you hear the worst thing you'll ever hear that you could ever imagine, which is, I knew you not. I knew you not. You don't want to hear that. Not when here in this life, it is so easy. It is almost insane to think of how easy it is to have him in your life and to have him save you. It costs you nothing, while also costing you everything. Because now you dedicate your life to him, you commit your life to him. But it is joyous, it is an honor, it is a privilege, it is filled with love, it is the greatest feeling, the greatest peace, the greatest solace you will ever have. But it costs you nothing to ask him in all humility and humbleness, because you want it to come into your life and to save you and to take you away from all of that, all the lies you were told, all the false promises that were made to you, all the ugly, horrible, putrid declarations that you planted your flag in, such that was the song that you sung during your life. You've had enough of it. You reject it all now. You've come to a place where you realize, hopefully, you've come to that place before you cross over, where you realize how you were misled, how you were deceived, and how you are truly ashamed and filled with sorrow and anguish and guilt for what you are. That's okay, that's your awakening, and now you come to him in all humbleness and humility and ask him to imagine the slightest of knocking and ask simply a simple ask of him to come into your life. Instantly, you are redeemed. He comes into your life. He fills you with the Ruach HaKodesh, fills you with the Spirit. And you receive all things. All things are revealed. All the questions, all the wondering, all the what does it all mean? What is my answered? And you're on your knees praying on how grateful, praying on how thankful, truly thankful from the depths of your heart. You're literally speaking from the code written in your DNA, from every molecule that makes you up, every fiber of your being, every cell is screaming, Yahuwah, Yahuwah, Yahusha, I love you with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. And I vow to love my fellow man as I love myself. And then you surrender, because you can't figure this out on your own. You've tried it your way. You've tried it the devil's way. You've tried it the way of the demons. You saw where it left you. You hand the burden over to him, because he is ready, willing, and able to take it off your shoulders. You surrender. You're no longer looking. You're no longer seeking. You're no longer interested in manipulating this life, trying to, in all frustration, bend into your will, manipulating people, manipulating circumstances, manipulating your environment, looking, constantly seeking to manipulate outcomes, and being left frustrated, anxious, guilty, sorrowful, just absolutely bereft and empty and unfulfilled and ungrateful and unthankful, because every time, should you ever get to the peak of any of the mountains you climb, once you're there, it lasts a second and it evaporates. The trick of the devil. You're up there and it's gone. And you find you're at the bottom of another mountain, because you're without Yahuwah, Yahusha. And so you're grateful, thankful from the bottom of your heart, from the depths of your soul, because that hole, that wound, that Grand Canyon-sized wound that was within you is finally healed with love and joy and peace and solace. And so you're thankful in a way you could have never imagined, and then you're surrendering to him and asking him to guide you, to direct you, to lead you in a manner that pleases him most, to the kingdom to come, to that narrow gate, that narrow path that leads to the narrow gate. But now you're on it. You're on it. His light beams down on you now. You're no longer in darkness. The darkness is gone, because his light, the light of Yahuwah, destroys, dissolves. It absolutely eradicates all the darkness that was in your life. And you could see for the first time. You can see it all. You see the zeros and the ones behind this false reality. You understand what a hallucination and mirage this all is. But now you're filled with steadfast promise and hope and righteousness because you know what's true. You know the way. You know the life because you're alive. You're revised, refreshed, reconstituted, reconstructed, reborn in his image. Once again, on the path as we were. As we were, we will be. As we were in paradise, before we allowed the serpent for the first time to mislead us. We are once again on a path that will lead us to New Eden, to his new kingdom, his kingdom to come where there is no more devil, Satan, Lucifer, or demons of this world. Hashatan is smashed beneath Yahusha's feet. Destroyed, dissolved, all darkness cast aside, obliterated. No more pain and suffering, no more illness or disease, no more war or misery, no more hatred or sorrow, no more evil or sin. No more decadence and depravity. Just everlasting love, everlasting peace, everlasting joy, everlasting healing, everlasting life in his kingdom to come, where he lives amongst us once again and we can love, honor, worship, glorify, and praise him with all our hearts, souls, minds, and strength in a manner that pleases him most. Praise Yahuwah! Hallelujah! So that light shines down on you and you are healed and you are warm. You are enveloped in his love, in his bosom. And then his light from the Ruach, the breath of Yahuwah that fills you with a blindingly brilliant light that heals you from the inside and bursts forth from you so that it acts like an infinite number of rays to all those. As you're now living as an example, again, you're loving your fellow man as you love yourself. You're loving yourself as you love your fellow man. And that light that shines through, because now you live as an example for Yahuwah Yahusha, such that those who are where you once were hopeless, addicted, bereft, filled with sorrow and anxiousness and frustration, longing, hungering, thirsting, they see you alive, inspired, encouraged, filled with Yahuwah, in Yahuwah Yahusha. And they know that if you can be saved, then they too can be saved. And so you live as that example for them. And that light, that same light that shines down on you and that bursts forth from within you and heals you in all ways, it illuminates that narrow path. And the Ruach, the breath of Yahuwah, keeps you on that path, guides you. Not that you won't stumble, not that you won't fall, not that you might not waver as you're on this path because you're misled or deceived. You're only human. You're bound to make mistakes. You're bound to wander here and there. Once in a blue moon, it will happen because we're imperfect beings. But the good news of the kingdom of Yahuwah, the good news of following the commandment and being filled with the Ruach is that you are instantly returned to the path because it is illuminated for you. It is bright and brilliant and you cannot miss it. And again, you know the commandment and you follow the commandment. You love Yahuwah with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. And you love your fellow man as you love yourself, and from there all good things spring, such that when you do have an infraction, when you are misled, when you are deceived, when you are fooled, when you are tricked, when you do make a mistake, because you are imperfect, because you are fallible, because we're not in the kingdom to come yet, you are instantly pulled back onto the path by the Ruach, because you are guided, because you are in Yahuwah, because you love him with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, such that he has granted you the wisdom and the discernment. So that when you do make a mistake, before where you were in darkness, you stumbled day after day, all the time, following the wrong roads, following your own will, your own conceit, your own arrogance, that led you on the path to destruction. But now, because we're still here, we're still wandering around in this illusion, in this hallucination, in this mirage, even though now we have a path and we know it and it's now and it's true and we're on it again. Because we're not perfect beings, because we're still fallible, because we're still imperfect, you will make a mistake here and there. But that's okay, because you can come back to Yahuwah, Yahusha, ask for his forgiveness in all sins, intentional and unintentional, because they will happen, but they will happen rarely. Because your mind is Yahuwah and Yahuwah is on your mind. Because your soul is in Yahuwah and Yahuwah is in your soul. Because everything about you is filled with the living law written on your heart such that it reveals the way, the truth, and the life. And so you will always be compelled to walk. You will always be pulled back onto the path so that you march. You will always find your way, true and strong, on this straight and narrow, blindingly brilliant, illuminated path to kingdom to come, you will always be magnetized to its righteous, true path, because your heart is now righteous. Your heart is now true. Your heart is justified, and your heart is sanctified as you walk on this path, and you want nothing more than that. You don't want these other things. You don't want these other. You don't want to be persuaded, influenced. You don't want all the baubles and the bedazzlement and the sparkling diversions and distractions of this world any longer. You may be in this world, but you're no longer of this world. So you will always, like a compass pointing true north, find your way back to Yahuwah Yahusha. But again, you won't wander far astray. It's not like you're going to end up in some place that you could have never imagined. How did it happen? You were living in Yahuwah Yahusha, where you were loving with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, loving your fellow man as you love, and then all of a sudden you find yourself years later down a path that no, it doesn't. No, it's not what we're talking about. You might have a slight hiccup, an infraction. You might make a mistake. You're only human. But again, instantly, and that's just, you might veer off-road just a bit before you realize, oh, I'm veering off-road. Boom. You're back on the path of the straight and narrow, because your heart is true and strong. You are now filled with wisdom and discernment because you've asked for it in the right way. Humble, all humility, wanting his love, wanting him in your life, wanting his salvation, wanting to believe, wanting to be faithful. And so you are. He delivers. He is faithful to you as you are faithful to him. He delivers on every single promise. So let us march steadfast, true, and strong, carrying the banner of Yahuwah Yahusha, so that all who are lost may see as we walk, completely filled with the strength and energy of the Ruach HaKodesh, the set-apart spirit, the breath of Yahuwah. We cannot be stopped. We wear the helmet of salvation. We wield the sword of the Ruach such that it obliterates all darkness, all demons, all evil influences on our path, demolished, destroyed. Nothing can stop. We are unstoppable. We are unrelenting. We are ceaseless as we move and groove and speed on this road, this blindingly brilliant, illuminated road filled with his love and his light, such that we never want to leave it. And we march strong, undeniable, unassailable, unconquerable, undefeatable to kingdom come.